So today, I would like to talk a little bit more about how we can establish and enhance the food safety culture in the food business during COVID-19. This may be the first time you've heard about food safety culture. A lot of the times people find this is really something very deep. It's really hard to understand. But today I'm going to try to make it simple so we understand why we need to talk about food safety culture. When we talk about food safety, we talk about wash your hands, we talk about use gloves depending on what products you're making, we talk about sanitization and cleaning procedures. There are a lot of human factors behind those food safety practices. And there are also a lot of psychological barriers for us to really comply with the practice. So one of the phenomenon we noticed is called optimism bias. People usually do not associate risk or bad consequences to themselves. So for example, when we conduct surveys asking people whether they like how much risk they perceive themselves to have to get foodborne illness. And nearly 60% individuals answered that their risk of getting foodborne illness are extremely low. So if you compare this number with CDC's annual estimation, which is 48 million people getting sick in the United States, which converts to 1 in 6 Americans getting sick from foodborne illness, you can see there is a big difference between the 60% individual people who think they would never get foodborne illness versus the 1 in 6 Americans getting foodborne illness. So people generally do not think they are vulnerable or their business is vulnerable. The second human factor I would like to discuss today is called illusion of control. We tend to feel that I know what I'm doing. I have been doing this for years. This is not my first time making cheese. I learned this technique from my grandfather, so I know what I'm doing. But does that mean what I have been doing is always right? You need to conduct a proper risk assessment and then determine what you should do for your processing business. The third one, cognitive dissonance. So there are times we know that we should do something. We learned that from previous workshop or from our last week's webinar that we need to keep a record. But what if I don't? When we conduct focus groups with our food business owners, this tend to be one of the barrier for a lot of owners. They felt like, I know I should do this, but I just can't because there are many reasons. That could be they do not have enough time to do it. They do not have enough employees to do it. So people tend to forgive themselves, even if they know they didn't do it. The fourth factors we noticed is the attitudinal ambivalence. So there are always this priority list we're examining in terms of running your business. Is food safety on the top of your priority list? That is the question you should always ask yourself. Because there are so many things we need to care about. Food safety is one of the most important items. It may not be that attractive when you balance your cost and profit. So that's the time when we need to be extra careful to see that if we really run into this trap, we care things that we thought it matters, but actually not. So with all of those those 4 examples of the human factor, now you may understand why training or knowledge change often do not even mean behavioral change, often do not even mean that those food safety practices will go back to your plant, go back to your business. There are many behavior change theories or behavioral theories behind it to help us understand why people do such things. Today, I'm not going to spend a lot of times on those theories, but I do want to introduce the concept that if you look at this example, this is just one of the theories we use. It's called theory of plant behavior. If you look at this model, you may notice that the 3 factors that could lead to behavior change are attitudes, the attitudes towards the behavior, subjective norms, what do other people do, can affect you, and then perceived behavior control, which is how likely this person or yourself can handle this, can handle the behavior, can handle the behavior change. And today, with the topic food safety culture, I am going to mainly introduce the second factor, which is the subjective norm. This term may sound very abstract. Like, what does that mean? So I would like to introduce this concept by using this short video. It is a famous elevator experiment. So basically, subjective norm means you could be changed because what you see and who you encounter. It matters who you are with. So the research subject entered the elevator first, and then the 2 people joined him, the one guy wearing white shirt and the lady wearing trench coat, and the 3rd researcher end. So those 3 researchers faced the back of the elevator. And the participant was a little bit curious why everyone is facing back. Without asking, gradually, he is turning himself towards that direction too, without knowing why it's that. But he's doing that because everyone else is doing something. Another example. Similarly, we have this research subject in the elevator first, and then entered this researcher wearing white shirt, and then the lady wearing trench coat. And then the 3rd researcher entered the elevator. So this participant looked a little bit puzzled, but he followed everyone else and then turned his face to the back of the elevator too. So that is the power of subjective norms. What other people do affect the employee's behavior. How does that translate into food safety? So we did a study with 101 high school students. We trained them with food safety curriculum for over 2 weeks. And by the end of the curriculum, we asked the students form into groups. And we provided them recipes. We provided them ingredients, asked them to make certain food products in front of the cameras. So we recorded their behavior. And we found some interesting phenomenon. So this is just one of the examples we found. So there was a student who was wearing the gloves. And then one of his teammates said, "We don't need gloves." Teammate B said, "Dude, don't put on gloves. No, we don't need gloves." And then the 3rd teammate said, no one said anything about gloves. My hands are clean. Guess what happened? The student originally wore gloves. Now he decided to take the gloves off because everyone else are not really wearing gloves. And that actually is the impact. And that's how food safety culture can impact your employee and your food business. Food safety culture is the way that the organization, not just you or not just your employee, but the whole organization approach food safety with the shared values among both management, the leaders, as well as the employees. Traditional food safety strategies, we always talk about how important the training is, and although not everyone like inspections, but you have to admit that inspection is part of our food safety strategies. It is important. And also, we rely on our data on the micro testings. What else can we do? Food safety culture is a behavior-based food safety management. It is more than the processes. We focus on both processes and also people. We based on both food science and those other science behind it, including behavioral science, including organizational psychology. We no longer just look at how many people wear their gloves. We also think about food safety as a system change. We look at behavior change that is complex. The target for a food safety culture is not just written plans in your cabinet, in your files, but also doing it. Even if you, who is the owner of the business, is not there, food safety culture should still work. So the employees are still running the food safety practices. So there are 3 stages for our food safety performance. Stage 1, at that time we really focus on the technology. What are the new technology we should focus on? We can eliminate those food contaminants. Now, with FISMA, that Abby will talk about later, we now focus more on the risk assessment. We're going to assess the risk, trying to identify what are the hazards, how we can manage those risks. When we evolve our business to the next level, which is establishing this food safety culture and try to make people change their behavior. Not only your employees, but also yourself. So after you talk so much, then how do I establish or enhance my food safety culture? You may already have something going on. You may have already communicate and train your employees. But from now on, it shouldn't just be check the box, I train my employee. You should also think about how does those training change their behavior? Engagement. Previous studies showed that employees who are involved with the design and implementation are more likely to buy in those regulations, those food safety practices. It is important to engage the employees early on in your food safety plan. Third but not least is the leadership. What you say and do matters. As a leader, it is true. As an employee, it is true too. So enhance this concept. Let the whole company know that from staff to management, know that you are the person who is the essential role of the organization's food safety culture. So during COVID-19, What are the things you can do to develop and implement food safety culture within this parameter? So, to help your workplace control, think about what are the things you can do, including from the management level. Think about what are the things you should do to pre-screen the workplace, pre-screen your workers. So what are the symptoms you are looking for, taking temperatures, and also develop a further thorough plan for disinfect and clean workspaces and equipment. Consider more frequent cleaning of touch areas. For employee, clearly communicate with them what are the symptoms you are looking for in terms of the COVID-19 pre-screening. And also enhance those PPE, wear a mask or face covering, and practice social distancing. And remember, if you do not wear a mask and do not expect others will do, and that is the food safety culture. You need to start thinking about food safety not just from your employee, but also from the leadership. With that, I want to thank you for your attention, and please save your questions to the end, and I'm going to switch gear. I would like to introduce Abby, and she will talk a little bit more about FSMA, about the Food Safety Modernization Act.